damas y caballeros y en todo el mundo. Hello again, people at home. There was a rip in the matrix there for a brief moment. Louie Tucci here live with my friend and colleague Paul Gaboury and our very special guest today, all the way from España, Nacho Riesco Costanza. Welcome. Everybody.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hola.
Yeah.
Hola a todos.
Yeah, thanks for taking time out of your day, Nacho, to come with us in the series of streams we've been doing about ZBrush 2023 and features that have been implemented, and specifically also how artists like yourself have been using Redshift with inside of ZBrush 2 and take a look at how you've been getting renders out of there. So those images were actually Redshift renders out of ZBrush. So it's pretty awesome to be able to have that ability now, especially I'm sure for someone like you doing jewelry, getting photorealistic renders now straight from ZBrush. It's probably a big change.
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Paul and Pixelic and Maxim for having me today. So yeah, as you already said, for me, it's going to be a big change because having the ability to sculpt your models and make a realistic render, everything inside of ZBrush is a very powerful upgrade. So I have been playing with the settings and with the new Redshift render, having very decent, very good results, talking about the jewelry finishings renders. I know that when we talk about jewelry renders, is a huge field because many people, it's a very subjective way of seeing things because the color of the metals, the color of the gemstones, and so on. Most of the cases, is very difficult to achieve very specific colors or tones for the metals or for the gems, but anyway, it's going to be a very good way to give a very close result to the client they are expecting to have in real life with once the model is casted and polished and manufactured. And I'm going to try today to explain what I discovered using Redshift for ZBrush, just for having good results when we talk about jewelry renders. But in my case, as all of you already know, I'm just creating organic jewelry design. When we talk about organic jewelry design, we are talking about something different than the traditional jewelry that you can find on a shop. When we are talking about wedding bands, for example, I focused on more sculptural models when sculpting animal, person reliefs and stuff like that. But anyway, I have some examples about traditional jewelry. So you're going to see what you are going to be able to do with ZBrush, rendering traditional rings with gems and simple stuff. And it's very easy to achieve very good results.
Yeah, well, you want me to put your screen up now so you can share some items, because I know one of the big things we want everybody to know too, Nacho's been doing a lot of stuff with jewelry for several years now in ZBrush, but he's got a background in sculpting just in general, period. So we want to highlight the fact that, he's been working as an artist, not necessarily, as you were mentioning, you wouldn't consider yourself a jeweler. You consider yourself more of a sculptor making jewelry pieces.
Exactly. Yeah, this is what the industry is demanding, is people who have the ability to incorporate the sculptural designs into jewelry pieces. So looking for creating different products, different than the traditional jewelry stuff that you can find in a shop. Or maybe we are coming back to the past from the Art Nouveau styles, Art Deco styles, and everything is already invented. So we are not discovering new things, but today we have the power of ZBrush, when you can do almost everything, and everything that you can think, you can achieve it with ZBrush. And talking about in the jewelry industry, many jewelers and brands are looking for people who are able to create different things. And here, ZBrush is the key to create those different things. And today, having the ability to render the pieces that you are sculpting, it's a step forward for designers or for artists.
So seeing that you're not classically trained in jewelry, how did you get into this? How did you fall into making jewelry pieces then and
Yeah,
getting to part of
of
the business?
before that, I was using ZBrush maybe for 2 or 3 years, so making figures, monsters, and that kind of stuff. That
Right.
most of people, when the first time that they find ZBrush, start making, and a casualty, of life. I can see, I have a friend who is creating illustration, and he had a contact looking for a jeweler who was looking for a person who can create figures, human figures, or create a collection of jewelry pieces. And he gave me the contact. I was contacting him, and that happens 8 years or 9 years ago, and this is the first time that I met the jewelry industry from the inside, the jewelry workshop, the different methods, and I fell in love for the way of working, of creation, the creativity that exists on the industry, and I was to start uh, re, gathering information and trying to learn as more as I can from traditional jewelry designers, and trying to find a way to use ZBrush for create that kind of things. I was to start posting my job on the internet, and it was just a matter of time for I was to start receiving a lot of requests about to start creating jewelry design, and that was my beginnings on the jewelry industry. And from now, I am working on the jewelry industry, I think, for around 10 years for private commissions on brands and a lot of stuff.
And you're primarily doing just jewelry now.
Yeah, I think, well, I can say 80% of the job that I am doing, my daily job that I am doing, I used to work 8 hours all the day with ZBrush, and most of the time is focusing on the jewelry designs. But as I said before, when we are talking about jewelry design, the people are always thinking about the traditional jewelry that they can find on a shop. When, for example, if I like to call jewelry, it's a 3D product. It's a product it's going to be necessary to print, and of course, or to CNC milling with CNC milling machine, and it's going to be necessary to cast with the traditional lost wax casting that it's today. All of the jewelers or the workshops of jewelry are still using from the past. And for example, to start creating coins, medals, a lot of reliefs. The reliefs is a very huge field inside of the jewelry industry. Who many people are demanding reliefs for people, for animals, or for many different things. Another key point about jewelry is that we are creating very small things. It's like working for miniatures. It's very close to the miniature world. Because I was working for a miniature company as well in the past, sculpting small soldiers, and it's very close because we are talking about almost the same size for the final pieces. When we are creating jewelry pieces, we are always worried about how thin it is, how small it's going to be. The weight is going to be very important. So we consider different points than the regular sculptor it's using when they are creating big figures or another kind of stuff or another application. So, for example, the kind of the market that exists focused on motorbikes, rings for schools, skulls, and that kind of things. And many people are requesting such kind of designs there is a very huge industry focused on the religious stuff. I don't like to make that, but I starting in the beginning making a lot of saints, virgins, and stuff like this because they transform those figures into medals and coins and things like this. So you can do a lot of things. Maybe this is one of the things that I like the most about working for the jewelry industry, because you have a lot of different things to do. you never be working on one single kind of design. So many people are requesting many different things, many different things.
Let me ask you a quick question about this design process and design thinking as a whole. You mentioned like sort of working for miniatures. Do you feel that in your design process for jewelry, give us an idea of how you start out? Is there a preliminary sketch that you do in some kind of on paper perhaps, or on a napkin? Where does it begin?
Now I go directly with ZBrush because since I was using ZBrush, my mind thinks in 3D. So I was a painter and an illustrator many years ago, and when I had an idea, the first step to start grabbing a piece of paper and start sketching with a pencil what you have in your mind. But today, I go ahead directly with ZBrush and start building the forms with primitives, or pulling or pushing the mesh with the Sculptus Pro till getting what I'm looking for. So, and I think I'd always have said that the powerful ZBrush is also a very powerful tool for sketching. So it's not necessary to us always to be thinking about the final piece. So the sketching process is very important on ZBrush. The freedom that you have inside of ZBrush for creating very quickly the forms and the shapes, it's a very powerful tool for sketching. And compare with the traditional CAD software, for example, that the jewelry industry has, so where you need to know a very deep knowledge about what you want to do to start building your curves and that, and
so for something like
that
this,
process.
Yeah. So for something like this, with this band, right? You're going to have sizes.
Yeah.
What are you starting with this band from the beginning?
Okay, let's start. For example, let's
Took the words right out of my mouth. You think
go.
we've done this before, me and this guy?
Yeah, I'm gonna try because I already have this the background. This is the reason why when I moved the cylinder, I need to go to the light. Maybe here on the background, turn this off. Maybe I'm gonna change the color of the background. I prefer plain color. Let's say here's 0. So when, for example, for a band or for a ring, everything is start from a cylinder. I need to turn on one light. And always start from a cylinder. For example, for the people normally in the jewelry industry, when I'm receiving commissions for start creating designs from designers or from a small workshop or even from brands, normally you receive some sketches or idea or a compilation of different pictures. So you need to start creating your sketch, as I said before, directly in ZBrush. The first step to take is to know what you are doing on the screen is going to be physically possible in the real life. So in terms of measurements, distances, weight, so the first step that I take when I start creating a band ring or a ring, it's grabbing a cylinder, of course, making a polymesh. Let's close this tab. I like to extrude it a bit just to recognize the 3 different axes. So left, right, top and bottom, left and right, and this is the depth axis. And let's go directly through to the scale master. Start setting the measurements. So this is the current measurement that the cylinder has. And the first step, I normally ask to the customer when they talk about finger size or different ring sizes. Based from my experience, just my personal point of view, depends of the people who are requesting a ring, because you already know that there are different way of measurement ring sizes. We have the US method, European method, French method. So I think that all of the system must have the same units, but based from my experience, it's not real. So I prefer to request to the customer, tell me the diameter in millimeters, and to don't have problems in the future. So to don't having a very big ring or a very small ring for any reason. So instead of give me a size 6, number 6 or number 9, I prefer to request the exact diameter for the ring. So, for example, very common.
There's so many reasons for that, right? Like there's so many reasons. I just think of something that I lost many years ago, and I know Paul has a story about losing something. Size is very important when making a ring.
Yeah,
You don't want it to slip off.
Yeah, it's very important, even more when we are talking about jewelry, as I said before.
Yeah,
Because we are talking about a half of a millimeter, we are talking about millimeter, a quarter of a millimeter. So the jewelers are always worried about those kind of things. So half a millimeter, make it quarter of a millimeter bigger or smaller. So
and we can speak from experience. Half a millimeter can slip off your finger, and
Harbor Island's got mine. Island's got mine.
Somewhere in my front yard is a very expensive ring.
And even more important, because during the manufacturing process, we are losing those measurements. So when we are printing the piece, depending on the kind of machine that you are using, you can make the piece bigger or smaller, depending on the technology you are using. During the casting process, you are going to have some kind of shrinkage on the piece, so you must consider that. So for some jewelers want to make it 3% bigger, because I know that my system, it's going to be necessary to have the piece 3% bigger, or 5 or 6. So I prefer to ask directly to the customer. So, but anyways, talking about general measurements, if I want to create a cylinder of 19, this is my fingers, and that's it. And from this point, it's like a template. I can start building my ring. This is what we currently call this mandrel. This is the masterpiece when we are creating a ring. And another step that I take is turn on the 3 axes, like this, when I'm designing a ring. So let's go now to draw and set up the elevation instead of -1 to 0. So here I have the information that I have the ring design split into 4 parts. So I know, for example, when we are wearing the ring, we must be careful to don't put a lot of relief here, a lot of volume here on the bottom, because if not, it can damage the fingers on the sides. It's not going to be very comfortable to wear. So it's better to start building the ring from the half of the ring and above. So try to avoid to put a lot of elements below the half part of the ring if we are looking from this view. And this is very, very useful. And from this view and the same from this view. I have split all of the views into 4 different halves.
Yeah, nice.
And
what's the tolerance you're looking for at the bottom for you? Like, are you keeping it around at least 2 millimeters? Or
depends of the kind of design that we are creating.
Yeah,
depends on 2 factors. The kind of design that we are creating, of course, is not going to be the same to start creating a skull ring, a very bold piece of metal for a big guy, or we are looking for creating a more delicate design for a wedding ring or whatever. So it's going to be thinner. So it depends of the design. This could be one key point. And another key point is going to be the kind of metal you are going to cast the piece. So it's not going to be the same. You have in mind to cast the ring in silver than in gold. We are talking about gold. 2 millimeters is going to be very thick. Maybe we are closer to 1, or maybe some jewelers are requesting to you going below 1 millimeter if possible, because the gold is much harder than the silver. So in that case, it's not going to be a problem. But if we can say about the standard size, I try to stay below 2 millimeters.
Okay.
2 millimeter. So for example, I use the same cylinder as before. Let's click the duplicate. Let's make it bigger. I'm gonna make it turn on the transparency. Let's squeeze it a little. So now it's time to start taking measurements. As I said before, start controlling the measurements since the beginning of the process. When you are creating a jewelry piece, it's very important. And of course, as I already shown before, the scale master is very useful. If you want to know how thick is this from side to side, we can just click in here. ZBrush is telling us it has 6 millimeter wide band. If we prefer to make, or the customer is requesting to us 8 millimeter band, if we turn this off, because we're going to change only this view, I don't want to change all of this tool, so it's going to be necessary to turn this off as well. So we are looking for example, to make a 9 millimeter. So now we know that this band has from side to side 2 millimeters. But if we want to know how thick is this, because if I put this on the top and I turn this on, so I'm going to start making booleans. If I turn this on, so this is the band. So we know that it has 9 millimeters by, let's see how much it is, 22.76 millimeter. But if we want to know what you already asked before, how thick is this? Now it's time to start using the transpose line as a ruler to start taking measurements. So I can zoom in. So turn this off. And now I can take a measurement from point to point. And here on the top left corner, ZBrush is telling us that this band has 1.8 millimeter thick. If the customer has given us an average of 2 millimeters, depending on the kind of metals, on even if we are just designing the piece, so that means that during the designing process, we are going to change our mind in terms of, in some cases, it's going to be necessary to make it thicker. In some cases, it's going to be necessary to make it thinner. So when we are creating jewelry, one of the main rule is to know that we are going to have enough metal to lose during the casting or during the polishing process. So if we are having 1.5 millimeter on during the manufacturing process, maybe we can find that half of a millimeter. Maybe we are going to have problems during the manufacturing process. But if we are creating a thickness of 1.8, it's going to be enough. So that means that we don't need to be 100% or very precise, because we are going to lose a lot of thickness during the manufacturing process. But we need to know during the designing process that we are going to have enough material, enough metal, or enough meat to work with.
The filigraphy, the filigraphy that you did in the ring. I know you made a video with the new gizmo ability. Is that how you did that, using the gizmo?
No, because I did it. I think I did it before that version of ZBrush. Yeah, that version. But that filigrane is very. I did it with okay. You can make it straight and start creating the form, and then adapt it to the ring herb. With one of the brushes that I love is to make that is the curved tube snap ring. So it's just okay. Maybe here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna group by normals this piece. So I have 3 different groups. So crease poly groups and hit the D. So just for using dynamic subdivision, just for having the surface not so faceted as before. And let's see, for example, if I remember that I was creating that ring on a live stream, and I was creating the form straight, and then I bend it, adapted to the ring. You can do that, or you can start creating the necessary scrolls directly on the surface with this brush, and you know that the curvature of the ring is 100% matches the surface of the necessary bend ring. Here, what I do is, for example, let's make it, for example, something more like this. Of course, you can precise with your. Let me check if I have. Okay, I have the occlusion active. You can very precise when you're using ZBrush, when you're using a graphic tablet. So I'm painting directly on the screen with Cintiq, but most of the people are using the on table tablet. So using this number 6 from the keyboard, so you can start fixing the curve before releasing the mouse. So I'm gonna repeat it. And I don't remember what I found this trick or this process.
Yeah, it's calling the smooth option in stroke curve functions. That's what it's calling.
For example, you don't be very obsessive about how precise you are drawing your curve, because with the number 6, that's hitting the key 6 many times, and just touching again the curve, you're gonna update the curve, and then I split mask points, and now here I can start sculpting the form till given the necessary shapes. One of my favorite brushes when I'm using when I'm making this kind of thing is the Move Infinitive brush. Because most of the time you are always working from one view, so it's not like when you're sculpting that you are moving the element at the same time that you are sculpting, you are pulling or pushing the surface from different angles. In this case, you are always worried from this angle, so of course you're going to be worried from this to know how thick is this. If we want to check it out, we can zoom in and repeat the same as before with the transpose line. Now we are having here 0.4 millimeter. So knowing that we are having 0.4 millimeters, that means that we are below half of a millimeter. That means that we are not going to have enough material to work with. So it's better to push this out a little bit. So as I said before, to know that we're going to have different enough material during the manufacturing process to don't lose any detail or information. So this is going to be a good starting point instead of maybe even more. 0.68, maybe a little bit more, 0.7. So this is going to be, one main rule when we are talking about jewelry, try to stay above 0.6 millimeter. Try to don't make details below 0.6 millimeters, because of course today there are a lot of machines, a lot of printers able to print very precisely with a lot of definition, but during the casting and during the polishing process, you're going to lose a lot of information. So it's a big rule that I normally take. Try to don't stay below 0.6 millimeter when we are creating thicknesses or details on the surface. And with this brush and with the back face, the good thing about this brush is I'm worried about this view, but I know that the same thing is happening on the front is happening on the back, because this brush reacts to the depth on the canvas. So I can start changing the shape of the scroll. And of course, during the process, you start making new mess at every time you start stressing or destroying or making this kind of weird things on the surface. So clicking on series measure, I prefer to get in the same amount and start polishing the surface. So just start from a basic shape and then you start creating different shapes, and during the sculpting process you rebuild your mess for having a uniform surface, and that's it. And the good thing about this is that you can see that the shape remains uniform because I'm touching this vertex, but the same thing is happening on the back. And this is a very useful, for example, to start adding thickness, the same from this view, because I'm touching here, but the same thing is happening on the back with this brush. And then I can turn this off, and now we can follow creating the necessary shapes. We build the mesh using series measure, and then once you're happy with the necessary form, what we can do, you can add another one, for example, another branch with the same brush. You can split mask point. I always prefer to keep everything separated as many subtools as necessary, just for having more flexibility. Because when you are I guess that all of the industry has the same problem, but based from my experience from the jewel industry, you expect to have a lot of changes from the original design. So you send your design to the customer likes the design, but he prefers to change this and that. So you should have a method able to create as many changes as possible with the less amount of time possible. That means you're going to save time, you're going to earn more money, you're able to create the things faster. So don't try to make everything in one block, because if you have everything split into different parts, you're going to be able to remove something, transform something, and you are going to have more flexibility. So
yeah, that's a great point on modular construction. It's one of the best piece of advice you could give someone in constructing pieces or assets for production.
Yeah, of course. This is
that concept of resolution, right? Keeping the resolution specific to each of the parts gives you even more control.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think based from my experience working for Julie, the resolution is not a big problem, because when you're creating a ring, you are not creating a ring with a huge amount of different subtools. Maybe you can be working with millions for each subtool, and at least based from my experience, you're going to have a lot of problems. So it's the resolution is not going to be the main problem.
And then what do you use to weld all this together? Once you have all this done, and you've got all these stuff, what's your preferred method for you to have all this be one mesh for the purpose of getting it out to print?
Yeah, I have one rule. For example, if you can have the needing of welding things during your designing process, but from that point till the end, you're going to need to sculpt a lot of things in the middle. So you're going to start building like I'm already having here. Let's fix this. But I know that it's going to be necessary to detail and to clean or to add more shapes. If you need to do that, I prefer to go to Dynamesh, because it gives me more flexibility to start sculpting things on the surface. And if I'm closer to the end, I know that what I'm doing is almost ready. We can say 90%. I used the Boolean system and leave it as it is. If I need some small touches, I use the Sculptris Pro, for example, and that's it. That then maybe the answer could be, you have many things still to do during the sculpting process, go to Dynamesh, because you're going to have much more flexibility from, in my opinion, compared to the traditional series measure process. That's the answer of the question.
So, and a question came in about what you use the hollowing out, and I let them know you use Mesh Mixer to hollow out your pieces. But ZBrush can do it too, and there's also the slicing softwares themselves also have hollowing ability now too.
Yeah, it's a very common question, because what I was having since the beginning, when I was used to just try to create the thing as more beautiful as possible, as more good finished as possible. But I was sending my jobs to the jeweler, and the jeweler said, yeah, it looks nice, but how weight it is? So the weight is, I don't know, 20, 30 grams. So it's beautiful, but it doesn't work. I need to hollow it out or remove weight, because if not, it's not going to be possible to manufacture. So you should be worried about the weight during the whole process when you're creating a jewelry piece, depending on the kind of metal. Even if you are creating a gold metal piece, even it's much more important. But that's the reason why I use Mesh Mixer, because we have more control with the offset of the external and the internal wall. Because we are talking about, for example, a client yesterday requested me to sculpting a figure with 0.6 millimeter as wall thickness. So we're going to save a lot of metals. We are using a more precise. We are not saving, of course, we are saving material, but the material in jewelry means a lot of money. So that's the difference between when you are creating a resin figure just you are removing material from the side for don't having a lot of waste of your resin, liquid resin material from the printer. But I use Max Mixer. But just for clicking 2 buttons, just for creating the offset between external and internal wall. Then I send it back to ZBrush, and I use one of my favorite features inside of ZBrush is the light Boolean system, because I can transform the internal shell. I can remove the material that I don't need from the internal shell. I can create openings for the piece, to start creating galleries or different more artistical openings. So for that, from my experience, the light Boolean system hasn't competence.
What printers are you using to print the pieces?
I used to use I used to send the piece to a friend that has a 3D Systems printer. It's the 3500W printer. It's a huge printer, a wax printer who prints from 3D Systems.
Good machine.
Yep. It's big. It's big and it's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap. Maybe we are talking about. I'm talking about from my memory in euros, around 50K.
Yeah,
and above.
But
it has a surface. It has I think closer to an A3 piece of paper as a surface building plate, where you can put a lot of pieces inside. When we are talking about jewelry, we are talking about small pieces. If you cover the whole surface, you can earn a lot of money. You have enough demand for your printer, and it has 0.16 millimeter resolution.
Yeah,
0.16. Most of the resin printers has 0.25 microns of resolution, and this machine has 0.16 millimeter. So the surface quality, it's great. It's amazing. Because from the jewelry industry, all of the people are looking for as smoother surfaces as possible to don't have to be polished the whole day. So to save time during the polishing part of the process, because that means hard handwork. That means money again. So they are looking for.
I put a link to the new series, which is now the 3600. It's like 70 US. It's like 70,000 US for that printer. But there are printers. Yeah, there are printers out there. Like you can even get a Form Labs printer that does print in wax, and you can do the last wax that you would normally do as a jeweler.
Yeah, the lost wax process is definitely made easier with that. And the other thing too, we throw the price of that printer around. It should be noted here for people watching at home that that's an industrial scale printer that is being worked. All day.
It's a huge scale printer.
To it. So there's a lot of people working with a printer like that, and it's in an industrial sort of space.
Yeah, and another key point, it's a printer that uses an injection. They inject. The name is Projet. They're using a jet for inject the wax, and it is using 2 kind of waxes. It's using the one building wax. It's making the support on the real wax. And the good thing, you are not creating support. You don't have to remove support. Once you have the piece printed, you can use a chemical process to remove the support wax. So that means that you're going to have the piece perfect without any marks on the surface. So this is a printer designed for the jewelry industry. And this is the process, and the same process during the sculpting process. As I said before, the things could look like nice on your screen, but you should be worried about the thicknesses. So during the sculpting process, you should be worried about the measurements. So what I'm going to do is to start checking the thickness we are having here. So here we are having 0.4 millimeter. Point to point, we can reach even almost 0.5 millimeter. That means that it has it needs more thickness. So I should push this out a little bit. And with the same brush with the back face mask active, I can put this inside. So I know now that I am creating a ready to print piece. So, and if we need to know how thin is this, because another key point when we are talking about jewelry is the stone setting is another war horse. You said that, right?
Sure, yeah.
For when we are talking about jewelry industry, many people are worried about the stone setting, and we are talking about the stone setting. We're talking a lot about measurements. The way that I use for the stone setting, for example, if the customer is, if I send this to the customer starts thinking about, well, it's gonna look nice if I put a row of stones here covering the whole distance between from the beginning till the end of the scroll, or even put as more stones as necessary, because I like the pieces with a lot of stone, with pavés and such kind of stuff. Or we can start thinking about to cover the empty spaces here with the stones instead of with more scrolls, whatever. So the system that I use for that inside of ZBrush, many people are asking about this. I already have one custom brush that I made it with different hem cuts. The most common one is this one, the round cut stone, diamond cut. And the way that I have to control how thick is this, or how big is this, in terms of we're going to have enough space for putting, for example, depends of the availability of the supplier or the hem supplier. He can give me 1 and 1.5 millimeter stones for the kind of stones I'm looking for. I use this plugin, the IMM draw size, to control this. The only thing that you should do is just type here the size you want. Instead of, let's put 1 millimeter stone, 1, enter, and just clicking here. And when you start dragging the hem, you press the control key, you're gonna block the size to the requested size you previously taped here. So another step to take is to control how deep the stone is on the surface. Of course, now it is floating on the surface. It's the way to control this is using this graphic. You can find this graphic inside of the brush menu, and then depth. You can control here the depth, how deep you can put the insert mesh. So let's put it here. So let's put a little bit more, a little bit less, a little bit more. Okay, that's it. So now we can start dragging, control, dragging, control, dragging, control. So now we know we are putting 1 millimeter stones. So to start making or pavé. So this is the way that I have. For example, if I can start mixing different sizes, if we come back here and we say 1.5 millimeter, clicking here again, now we are start putting 1.5 millimeter stones.
Yeah, that plugin was actually made specifically for jewelers. It was a request from GIA, I believe, if I remember right. I put a link to it so people can go download it. It'll also work along a curve. So if you guys want to use a curve with that, it also has the correct sizing along a curve.
Yeah, from my experience, you are looking for simple curves, it works. But if we are looking for to cover a very intricate surface, from just my opinion, it's much better to start placing the stones one by one, because it could be looks very low process, but when you grab the process, you're gonna be very fast moving it. And once you have all of the stones, you can split them into polygroups. You can control them individually. You can move it one to the right or to the left if necessary, or you can do this. You can use the move topological with a big brush size, and you can start fine adjusting the necessary space between each stone. So at the end, it's going to be a very flexible method. And the same thing about the prongs. Yeah.
A question came through. Are you selling that brush anywhere? Or that's just something you've made. You haven't uploaded it or sold it anywhere.
I used to share it on my streams, on my ZBrush Live streams. I don't care about share it but it is very simple because it only has 6 types of hemstone. But I will share it on my next ZBrush Live stream.
Yeah. So what he's referring to, everyone, this is our ZBrush Live channel. Nacho actually is.
I think it's gonna be in the next Thursday.
Let me look. I'll double check.
I think it's gonna be next Thursday at my 6.
Yeah, I'll double check on the calendar and I can put that link in there for everybody too. And so, but now you've got, when you're doing this process, you now have Redshift. And I know at some point, I don't know if you want to transition into that or you want to show a couple more techniques that you like to use.
No, that's saying just for summarizing about the different ways that I have to control the measurements. I use the Scale Master, of course, the IM Enter Size. Another external plugin that I like to use a lot is the Precision Extract plugin. Where are you? This one, where you have to control when you are making an extraction. You have a way to control the thickness. How thick is the surface that you are extracting? For talking about jewelry design, this is going to be very useful for many applications. Is instead of using the default extract button here, you can use this, and you can control the thickness of the extraction. Even for creating hollowed pieces with a precise wall thickness, this is going to be another method. For example, this becomes very useful when you are creating flowers, leaves, and such kind of stuff, wings, this kind of feathers. And you need to have under control how thick the piece of metal you are creating. This is a very nice plugin to use.
That's also on the same location, the link I previously shared with you all, or the last plugin that you're talking about. Same location. You can go get that plugin too. And then your next stream right now on the schedule is Thursday, February 23rd. So that's next Thursday. I've shared that link and I'm sharing the calendar link right now. Okay.
Yeah, don't miss that one. That's going to be another great cavalcade of information coming at you.
Right. So, but now that we have Redshift, you started to use that to get some of your renders out. So there were some people asking some questions about that when we began, how you're using Redshift now.
Okay.
ZBrush.
Okay, I have some examples here.
Yep. I'm also sharing a link for you all that you guys can see some renders that Nacho did inside of Redshift within ZBrush. Again, right now on ZBrush Central, you have to scroll down and you'll see there's a fish, there's the band that right there. There you go. He's showing them right now. There you go.
Here we have, for example, this fish. This is one interesting thing that I found that you did it, Paul, something similar on the previous stream about hard surface, when you have the ability to mix 2 different kind of materials. When you, for example, here you can on the surface. This is very common to see with when you are rendering antique or very old-fashioned jewelry pieces. When this kind of aged finishing, when you have more matte surface here and more polished here on the crest, on the more elevated surfaces. I did this just with the same process that you shown on your string. Just mixes the kind of material, because rendering using Redshift inside of ZBrush is great, because as a ZBrush user, you can use the knowledge that you already have about ZBrush, controlling materials and colors, but making your renders. So you don't need to know anything else. So you don't need to start creating UV mapping and stuff like this, because you just paint on the surface, and most of the time the result is good enough. But the same thing here, you can see this kind of patina effect that I have here. It's just masking by cavities on the surface. I'm painting with 2 different colors, and I have the effect that this is kind of more aged metal on the surface. And the same thing for the hemstone, for the stone in this case. I just using a label, or I start painting with the spotlight with a picture of the kind of stone that you need, and that's it. So you need to create a UV map and nothing like that. The same thing here. You can paint this with Photoshop, and you can make a search in Google about opal or another kind of stones, and you can just transfer the RGB information with the spotlight onto the surface, and that's it. And the same kind of patina here on the tiger surface, with the masking by cavity and using 2 tones of the same kind of yellowish color.
It's great to see you talk about that. This sort of what appear to be simple functions coming together to make something look so complex and wonderful.
Yeah,
it's really great.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I love about combining Redshift and ZBrush, because most of the time the people are very simple to make, but the result that you are having, it looks very complex and elaborated, but at the end, for example, you can see here the brightness of the stone is not perfect. It has a kind of noise. So using the surface noise, it breaks the surface continuity. Instead of having a very smooth and fake surface, you can break the refraction of the surface and looks more real. And that's it. Everything inside of ZBrush is not going to be necessary to create any bump map or whatever as on any other external application. I love to use the surface noise. And another one. The same thing here, with the same process, combining 2 different materials, one matte, another one more polished, to have this kind of finishing on the surface, and a very simple surface noise on a plane for having this kind of effect or texture on the surface. And this is the ring I'm going to show you. This is how I did it here. This kind of, we are talking about jewelry. Maybe you are looking for more catalog shop renderings, when you are looking for more clean and more fancy results. And this is the preset that I already have. I'm going to show you how I did this. So I think it's quite.
It's really great. That's a great product representation. I mean, it translates beyond jewelry. Obviously, the function is applicable to other products and other things that people.
Yeah, just to show you. Okay, yeah, just to show you. Of course, there are a lot of ways to make things more and more complex, more and more accurate, more and more precise in terms of how the realistic the stone is, how the quality of the surface is, how close to the real piece the method is. Of course, but as a starting point, just putting 30 minutes of time, you're going to have this kind of render. It's going to be enough for putting on your website or for sell this kind of rings or whatever. So this is a
perfecto. Es perfecto.
Perfecto.
I got away with one there.
Let's open. Okay.
Continuamos.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to open the whole project. It's this one.
Mm-hmm.
Nacho, so in the feed, the people are saying they look amazing. And
thank you very much.
Highly polished, beautiful, authentic looking work. So
thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Glorioso.
Yeah. People are saying that. Yeah, this is what you're looking for. Just to transfer. The good thing about the render is to try to translate what you did during the sculpting process and try to add an extra value to your work. Because I prefer to render another kind of things instead of this, because this is more traditional, as I was talking about, more traditional kind of jewelry with stones in the middle, with prongs, simple things. But my opinion has less creativity than the organical pieces, but they're very fast to achieve. Let's turn this on. I'm gonna use now render quality. I'm gonna increase this just for having less time, less waiting time. And let's talk about my way of working is based on intuition. So I'm not a very technical guy who knows what each single button does. I can spend just testing, trial and error till getting the result that I'm looking for. Sometimes you reach a very good render just for accident. So you don't know what you are doing, but you are getting very good results. But now it's time to save it. But because behind the rendering process it exists a whole science that you need to know a lot of things, but I don't care about it. So I just be here recognizing what I like and what I don't like, and that's it.
I think there's a lot of people. I feel like rendering is just like a wall of levers. You're just pulling them and crossing your fingers. Hopefully,
yeah. And
I mess up more than I get good renders. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, very common, very common.
What does this dial do? What does this little switch pull?
Yeah, when the people are and asking to you, how did you do that? If I don't know, so, I'm gonna try to know it, but.
I had a client one time ask me to convert a toy into a render for photoreal, and I thought, they said, "Is it going to take a long time?" I said, "Throw hands up."
Well,
depends my mood.
Yeah, talking about jewelry renderings, I think the key thing is the light. Okay, I need to say first that I'm gonna open my subtool list first. One of the good things about the Redshift, for example, you can see the quality of the surface.
Nacho, hold on 1 second. I want to interrupt you. I just want to make sure people understand. This is Redshift inside of ZBrush. It's like inside of ZBrush. You just press the render button and it's happening inside of ZBrush. Okay, carry on. Sorry, disculpa.
So we are just, you go here to the render section. Here you have this section. You can open it and you can start rendering your pieces with Redshift inside of ZBrush. I was talking about this kind of the file comes from an external software, a CAD software. You can see it here, the mesh, and the surface. You can see how the surface looks like. It's very common where the people are sending to you files from CAD software to fix them or to add more elements or as a starting point to work with. But the good thing about ZBrush is that you have this option inside of with Redshift. You go to Tool. Inside of the subtool menu, you have this Redshift properties, a smooth surface. I'm gonna zoom in. You start making a render. You can see now the surface looks perfect. If I turn this off, so Redshift is going to be able to smooth the normals of the surface. So this is going to be very powerful, very handy when we are talking about jewelry designs. When you are going to receive a bunch of pieces from a customer who wants to create a batch of different renders, and they were built with CAD software. This is very common to have this kind of faceted surfaces, and this is going to be very easy to fix. Just clicking one button and having very good result on the surface. And of course, it's not going to be careful, because if you do that with the stones, you notice that I don't have this option active. If I looks good enough like this, but if I turn this on now, you can see how weird the stone will looks like. This will looks like more like liquid stones or something. Yeah, looks strange, but yeah.
What material did you use for that? Did you make that material, or you just grab one of the defaults?
One of the defaults. As I said before, most of the time I try to touch as less as possible, because I know that many people are having a very deep knowledge about rendering, and they are getting very good results. But for example, if I need to render let me check the light. Maybe I had to turn it off. Yeah, let's turn this on first. So I go directly to a transparent material. We already have two. We have the glass here, and we have another one. I don't know the difference between glass and tinted glass. For example, this one, and this is the one that I use. Just saying, this is the only control that I touch it, is the IOR setting. You can see I just use this. If I grab the material, where I am, material, and open the modifiers, you can control, just pay attention to this value, reflect this first option, IOR. As far as I know, it means index of refraction, right?
Yeah.
And I think it comes by default in 1. If I click 1, send the render again.
Yeah, I
you can
found some
see
great websites I'll share right now with everybody for this
yeah,
index of refraction list stuff.
so this is very, very fast to achieve. For example, you put here 2, you can see the difference, just for understanding what it does. You can see now is still, now becomes more transparent, but now it looks more solid than before. So the default, we go from 1 to 2, I stay in 1.5, and that's it. It's good enough. The glass material works very well for gemstones. And but the key about the gemstones, of course, the material itself, it's the first step to take, but the lighting, it's very, very important. The way that the light impact on the surface and start creating the different reflections on the surface is going to be very, very important for having an attractive gemstone. And if you want, as far as I learned, you can change the color of the hem, just changing this, and you can have a color stone very quickly.
That's a ruby. That's my stone.
Yes, a ruby. The reason why everything becomes red, I think, because I need to change the material, because I am applying the existing material to the floor. If I could change to the basic, because of also the surroundings, the environments affects the metal, the reflection, everything. So this is very, very, very fast way for having, because if the customer is not sure about the color of the stones, just change the one color, send again the render, and you are having a very good result.
And the only lighting you were using is an HDR that you have a resource, right? That you got.
Yeah.
Found some good.
Yeah,
HDR.
I'm gonna share it with you. I am using this one.
You're using it. So you're using a studio. It's a studio. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a studio. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna share with you the link what I found it.
Sure. And I'll share that with all of you in the chat so you can see where he got these.
It's a pack of.
This is just great. We're really waking some people up to some creative possibilities. Fantastic work.
Yes, because when we are talking about the jewelry design, most of the time we use a studio lighting. That means gray, black color with 1 or 2 or maybe 3 spotlights, not too much. And the good thing about this, I prefer to zoom out first, because it's better to check the render first in its small size and then start making it bigger and bigger. So like this.
That link, Nacho, isn't working for me.
It's not working.
Dropbox link.
Okay, let me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna try to show you. Fine.
You got it at DeviantArt. It's at the end.
Yeah.
At DeviantArt. I'll share a couple of the ones that I've liked.
Yeah, here I have. Here it. No, it is not this one. At HDR, free to download. I don't know, because yes, it is sending.
While he's getting that, I'll share one that I've been liking, everybody, that I've been going to get some free, and then you can also become a Polyhaven. Polyhaven's a really good resource website. And EXRs will automatically now load inside of ZBrush right to the background that he's showing as your HDR.
Maybe this link should work now. Yeah, this is the links. This is I'm gonna show you.
There's a question here in the chat. Sorry for the stupid question. First of all, there's no stupid questions. If you're sitting there watching any of our feeds or any of our content ever, please feel free to ask your questions because it's a very important to take advantage of the artists and ourselves as we're available. So there's no stupid questions. And the other part is, are these usual ZBrush materials? Yeah, there's a ton of materials that are shipped inside of ZBrush that are both basic, matte cap, and now Redshift materials that come fully embedded in the software when you get the latest version. So yes, the answer is yes. They come inside of ZBrush. Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, there are a lot of material, but from my opinion, with the bunch of material that you're already having here for Redshift, you can have a lot of possibilities just changing little.
Right, like making modifications to the default materials that ship. Absolutely.
And that's it. But as Paul said, this is what I did. Is the lighting comes from an HDRI environment, and I also have this light here. If I turn this off, you are having a different lighting on this scene.
Yeah, so you pretty much use the defaults of the render settings. You use an HDR image. And it looks like you're taking advantage of the ability of having Redshift with ZBrush. It looks like you're using also the filter system at the end.
Yeah.
Right? You're using an Orton at the end, it looks like?
Yes. For example, for this one, I already use, I think, as far as I remember.
Somebody say Orton? Cowboy Bob Orton?
I'm just taking a roll of dice here based upon what I see.
Too soon. Cowboy Bob Orton.
Yeah, I'm using I'm using two kind of filters. This is the Orton filters. This is with without it. And I like to apply a glow filter.
Oh, nice, yeah. And again, this is real time. These filters are real time.
Yeah,
everybody.
this is this another one is the glow filter. Let's make it more aggressive to see the results. As you can see, now everything renders are always a matter of trial and error. That check it works, doesn't work. Let's make it again. Doesn't work. Make it again. Doesn't work. Make it. You can be making that the whole day, but it's fast enough to start testing. You can see here now how it glows, but it takes a few time for the rendering. Let's turn on this, and this is here I have another example of a more artistical rendering. When we are this one, I made this render with different NPR filters with this kind of. It has more hand sketch filter. That's the reason why it hasn't prongs, because it's just an idea exploration with colors. Because I was looking for more artistical finishing. Here you can see this kind of lines looks like they were drawn with pencil on the hemstone. You can do this over the Redshift render. You can apply a lot of filters. Also for color correction, contrast correction, you can do a lot of things. And this is very, very simple.
That's very nice.
The glass material works very well for gemstones. But the surroundings, it's very important, because I have here inside of the render tab, you can control the color of your ground. Let's Redshift. I have this color. If I change it to black, everything changes as well, because you can see here the idea, or I'm gonna remove the filters now. Let's remove this and this for having more contrast. Depending on the mood that you are looking for on the renders, the render has, you can see that if you change the environment, the shadows and the reflections, everything changes. So it's not only a matter of material settings. So the background and the environment is going to be very important that you are talking about jewelry, because we are always using refractive for a lot of shiny surfaces, and it's going to be sometimes very difficult to remove one bright that we don't like, that one shadow that we don't like. So it's not a matter to start tweaking the parameters on the material, but you should change also the light. And for example, you can change the latitude and the longitude here of the environment. So let's change it like this. Let's see what I have. And also the tilt. Not a big change. Let's put it here, this. You can see now that the light comes from this side instead of from the previous side. So you can start having completely effects or finishings. You can see now, my opinion, this render is less attractive than the other one that has a better combination of lights and shadows. But the good thing about this is that you can be testing and the render throws then the results very quickly.
Yeah, I see you're also changing the exposure at render time as well.
Yeah, also here now we can change to 1. And you can add more lights if you want. Make it like this. Change it. Let's add another one here. Let's put here a front on the front like this. Let's make it a little bit brighter. 0.8. And let's see what happens. You can see now everything become more shiny here because here I have an extra light here. If I turn on another one, we put it here on top. And also we can apply color lights if necessary. You can see here now the stone starts shining a little bit more than before. I think it could be better to change the color of the floor again. For having a better balance. So now you're having a completely different setting. And for example, for the piece, as I said before, you can control this. For this, the surface noise, you can combine the surface noise for giving more appealing to your renders using the surface noise. Where I am, yes, noise. I am using this. You can make it bigger, for example, or smaller. Or complete, and also we can apply colors here for having more like this, and we can have this kind of result directly on the render. So this is one of the things that I like the most about this implementation of Redshift inside of ZBrush, because I was going directly to where I need. For already ZBrush users, it's going to be very useful.
Very nice. Yeah. It highlights really well how much now you can just and then stay within the application of ZBrush and get some really beautiful quality renders out of it too. Or like you pointed out, this is also from another application, a CAD program, and getting a render from it.
Yeah, and also you can start exporting your passes for having more control in Photoshop if necessary, to changing the color of the stones in Photoshop instead of inside of ZBrush or whatever. So you can start combining different passes with different materials. So the possibilities are endless.
There's one question that came through just to throw out here, kind of actually reversing back to the sculpting part. They were asking, do you have any good tips on sculpting diamonds or patterns on jewelry products? So I know you'd already showed your diamonds. It will actually have the brush still loaded. Did you make those inside of ZBrush, the gemstones that you have?
No, they were made with from an external software. Because I think, yeah, maybe you can do your own hem cuts, but I think from my point of view, it hasn't too much sense, I think. But you can do it with the C modeler, with a low poly modeling. You can create your own hem cuts, artistical hem cuts if necessary. So, and
some people have used the clip brushes too, and the trim brushes.
And the clip brushes. Yeah, maybe the clip brushes too. With a radial symmetry, then 4 points of symmetry, you can create your own your own diamond cuts and your own hemstones if necessary.
And then for patterns, I know you mentioned surface noise. I don't know if you have a good example to show this person. If you've used surface noise for patterns, getting patterns on jewelry, I'm assuming.
But what kind of pattern? Maybe, I don't know, because we are talking about pattern that we can create a lot of things.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe when I came to the jewel industry, most of the client and the jeweler were requesting creating textures on the surface, patterns maybe on the surface, because the way that ZBrush has is very simple, very much more powerful than the other kind of software had. And for that, maybe the surface noise, from my experience, is my favorite way. You already have a lot of presets. Let's see. If we come back to here we have a library of different patterns, or for example, this one. Of course, this piece hasn't UV mapped as a region, but you can see here you can start creating this kind of patterns if necessary. Let's change the angle here. Let's still get in here. And you can have a completely different pattern on the surface. Don't forget that you have here a whole library with different patterns of, for example, that's kind of the weave. Voronoi is the one that I love. For example, plate, this one, for example. It works very well on this one. Let me change the color of it like this. It will send again. And the render we are having this, instead of having a non-interesting, didn't grab the updated noise. I don't know why. But you can have a completely different thing just with this library of different noises of patterns inside of ZBrush. You can create your own. Of course, it is a technique that has many steps. Maybe today is not going to have time to explain the whole thing, but you can create a lot of things.
Yeah, and again, he's going to be streaming again next Thursday too, so that could be time for you guys also to come back and see Nacho and see the process.
Yeah,
as well.
I already have many videos on YouTube, on the stream, talking about I was making a scales pattern for dragon and snakes, for ornaments. I was explaining the whole process for creating your own tileable pattern, how to apply the pattern on the surface, and how put it on the right orientation and stuff like this. You can find it on the YouTube channel on Twitch from my previous streams. And maybe, I don't know if the people want to know more about sculpting tips or techniques for jewelry design, because there are so many that maybe. Or for the Redshift, I have another example here. Let me open the Tiger one. Let's see. I have this one. You can see it. This is what I have as a background. This kind of ramp. And the thing about this, I was talking about this. I just was using a picture of this. For just painting this on the surface, just for creating this, quite simple, just for having and on the surface, the same. You can see you're having two different colors with let's create a duplicate of this one. If I turn this off, you can create masking, mask by cavity, for creating a mask. Now let's add more intensity. With this, you can invert the cavity and apply a different color. RGB, fill object. So now you can have this kind of blackened surface on the deep cavities for having this kind of fattiness. If we, for example, let's paint this with, let's try to create an oxidized silver material. Maybe the best choice is going to be, this is a simple metal. Let's fill first with color and material, and RGB, fill object. Fill object. Now with mask by cavity, you can control the cavity profile with this, trying to getting more different results if you want. And sharpen the mask, invert the mask, and now let's go to black and fill object. And now you can have this. That's having this kind of different effect. So this could be, as one person asked before, about if Redshift already have this or that kind of material. You can create your own, just changing the color on the effects on the surface. So it's not going to be necessary to have oxidized silver, that you are going to be able to do that very quickly like this. And also, if you are looking for more aged finishing, you can come back again to the noise and apply more aggressive noise on the surface like this. And also you can paint the model if necessary. Let me check how many lights I have. Let's see, because it's very bright on the surface now. Maybe now here I'm using a color light. Maybe it should be this one. It has a blue tint. This, I'm going to turn this off. Let's see how it works. And it takes enough time to keep playing and playing until getting the necessary results you're looking for. Maybe if I reduce the parameter of the quality of the render, maybe it's going to be necessary to wait less. Let's go to 2. Let's increase this. And let's remove this. And let's see how it looks like. And also you can paint your model if necessary. I'm gonna try to make a painting now, and I'm still waiting for the result of the last render. I think you're having quite realistic finishing with this. You can, for example, let's grab the paintbrush. Paint. This is one of the things that I like. As I said before, hold fast without I'm using the paintbrush. Paint with this color. So you can see you can start painting here and there, or let's make it more dark at the bottom. So you don't be worried about any kind of map. So let's reduce the and you can do this. And now again, coming back again to the masking by cavity. Masking by cavity. Here, masking by cavity. Invert the mask. Let's sharp the mask. Now, we can have this kind of results here. See how it looks like. And yeah. Yeah, it's an endless. I can be here the whole day making renders, but this is one of the part of the process that I love to spend time making renders and making different composition. I have a lot of renders on my hard drive because, but as I said before, it's not a matter to understand the whole pack of settings. Just having the idea of the light, where the light comes from, the material, how shiny it is, if it's too shiny or it's not too shiny. For example, you want to control how shiny the metal is, you can go to the materials. I already have here the tab open. With the material selected, you can control with this setting, reflect roughness. You can increase this value, and now you have a completely different material. Now it's closer to a plastic more than a metal, but you can control this. You have a lot of settings here, but being honest, I only touch maybe 5. I don't care about the others because I didn't need them yet for having the result I'm looking for. And
It's very cool. It's very nice. It's and then using those techniques with masking, I think there's so many masking techniques that I think can be really used to push a model.
Masking, painting, and I recommend you to paint not only with color, but with color and material for having a lot of effects. You can achieve a lot of patina effects, the bronze effect, copper effect, a lot of metal effects.
We could be here for a week talking about the effects of masking on the surface dynamics of an asset. I mean, it's really a functional stretch at this point. We would feature masking in that regard for a month if we wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. One technique that I found a long time ago with this brush, with the trim dynamic brush, only with the color, without any sculpting, and with this alpha. Just for getting this kind of aged and scratch effect on the surface. You can see it only affects the not the cavities, only like this. If, for example, if I change the material, let's grab some gold material. Let's paint with color and material. With color, with then apply some kind of reddish, some kind of green effect. It works very well. This combination of brush, alpha, and color for metal effect, aged metal effects. In jewelries, and they are not very common if we are not talking about ancient pieces from Egypt or whatever. But this is one of the parts that I like the most because shiny surfaces are very boring in my opinion. So I prefer to play with different materials and with different finishings. And this is, you can see how interesting is this, just creating this kind of a scratchy effect on the surface.
Cool. That's a nice touch.
Yeah. Okay, let's
well, okay. I don't know if there's any other questions for Nacho. We're gonna have to let him get back to his evening. I don't know if there's anything else you also want to make sure you showed Nacho, but I'll open up to make sure we didn't miss any other questions that we could get answered before we let you go and get on with your evening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just remember that the people are interested on the application of ZBrush for jewelry design. I'm gonna be streaming here next week. On future week, I already have some recorded streamings talking about. I was making pendants, reliefs, rings, and many stuff applied to jewelry designs, and I hope it will be interesting.
That's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. I think I'm going to send us off and say goodnight to you, all of our fans and friends around the globe, heading the eastern direction. It's getting late for our European friends as well. And Paul Gaboury, any last words from you before I take it away and take us into the stratosphere?
I just want to say, Nacho, thank you so much. For
You're welcome.
I'm
You're
out of your
very welcome.
evening. It's later for Nacho. He's in Europe, so thank you for being a part of this. It's been really great to see you.
The people are really happy in the chat. Lots of people are going to be lining up to watch your feed as we continue with the ZBrush Live. I want to thank Paul Gaboury, my associate and longtime friend and collaborator here with the ZBrush team. I want to thank, on behalf of everyone here at Maxon, Nacho Riesco, Gostanza, gracias muchísimas por todo. And for all the people who are watching in the homeland of España, that's a wrap. Buenas noches, salud, and one last hostia for everybody. Okay.
Okay. See you. Bye.
Gracias.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.